Last time we talked about belonging at work and the need that we have as humans to feel like we belong. God created us to belong. When we do feel like we belong, we thrive. Our engagement at work increases. We bring our best and we do our best. This enhances productivity, profitability, and growth for an organization. And it's up to you as a leader and a business owner to create belonging in that environment for you and your employees. You'll thrive, your business will thrive, your relationships at home will thrive. What we discussed is that having frequent, positive, and personal interactions with others where they sense that we value them for their uniqueness is what helps us feel like we belong. We also said that those interactions probably include things like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. We need the fruit of the Spirit to come out of us in order for others to feel like they belong. The fruit of the Spirit is relational, isn't it? Which of those isn't? So for us to understand how to have and communicate and give off this fruit of the Spirit, we need to understand more about relationships. And we need to understand more about what I would say those two first things in the list tell us, love and joy. Love, first, is this unconditional love of God. It was the Greek word agape that Paul used to describe something that we just didn't have a word for really back then in that language. In the Hebrew, in the Old Testament, the word they used is chesed. And that means this sticky, unconditional loving kindness of God. Now, the stickiness is kind of makes sense to us, doesn't it? It's almost like we know when we love somebody that there's something that we just can't get away from. In fact, Paul said, there's nothing that can separate us from the love of God. Well, that stickiness is what modern day psychologists would call secure, loving attachment. Attachment. It kind of makes sense. We have this loving attachment with people. We have this loving attachment with God. And in order to understand this love and this joy and this attachment, we can understand it better by digging deeper into psychology and even into some neuropsychology. I'm not going to go too deep today, but I could really geek out on this stuff. But let's talk just a little bit about what modern brain science tells us about how we operate. Now, the cool thing is, over the past 30 years or so, brain science has given us this opportunity to study living brains. We can actually track thought. We can understand where and how feelings and emotions and thought is processed in our brain. And there's a consistent pathway that should be used in a healthy brain and mind on how to process what's going on in the world around us. Sometimes we don't follow this healthy path. In fact, I would say oftentimes we don't, and we just aren't aware of it. But in order to create belonging, we need to be following this path. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Dr. Alan Shore, a neuropsychologist and the world's leading authority on how our right hemisphere regulates emotion and processes our sense of self, says this: attachment develops through, guess what? Joy. When we have joy, we develop this attachment, this sticky, unconditional love relationship. So the two are so dependent upon one another, it's almost like when you have one, you're going to have the other. When we have joy, this attachment is going to be a result. Joy is the fuel for our sticky, unconditional loving kindness with God and with others. He further describes joy as this: It's what I experience when someone else is glad to be with me. It's what I experience when someone else is glad to be with me. So when I'm glad to be with someone, they experience joy. When they're glad to be with me, I experience joy. We get this exchange and multiplication of joy that goes on. In other words, my sense of belonging will increase when someone is glad to be with me. When someone shares joy with me, I feel like I belong. If I flip that around, I'll say, when I share joy with others, they feel like they belong. When I share joy, I create belonging around me. And I say it's up to us to share joy so that we can create belonging around us, at home, at work, or at play. The definition of joy is someone else is glad to be with me. Let's dig into that a little bit and understand a little bit more about what all that means. First off, joy is relational. It's not logical. It's not circumstantial. It's based on the relationship. It's not based on my feelings. It's based on how others are interacting with me and their feelings toward me. And it's not logical. It's emotional. Finally, it's not a choice. We just feel it. In fact, brain science further shows that where we experience joy in our brain, it happens so fast that it's super conscious. It's faster than our conscious thought. In fact, when I get into this a little bit further, I'll share more about the differences in how our brain operates. And finally, just to emphasize that joy is important, Jesus wants joy for us. He came to bring us joy, and he's even given it to us, and John wrote this in chapter 15 of his book. He said that remaining in his love and keeping his commands, or what Jesus calls abiding, gives us his joy. In fact, verse 11, Jesus said, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. How awesome is it? Jesus wants to share joy with us. He's glad to be with us, and he wants us to have that joy. How awesome. Isn't it great that we have an experience with Jesus, that we have this infinite joy we can always have? Let's share that with others. Neurotheologian Dr. Jim Wilder brings together neuroscience and theology and the gospel so that we can understand more about how God created us, our physical bodies, our biology and chemistry makeup, and where that is biblically in our relationship with him and how we can be our best. As I mentioned, modern brain science has shown us a ton of things about the brain. One thing in particular is this. We have two brains, a left brain and a right brain. Now, you've probably heard references to this over the years. You know, somebody whose left brain is, or first off, that we're calling them left brain is a misnomer, but they're analytical or logical. And somebody whose right brain is the creative, right? Or someone is more right brain than left brain. All of those are misnomers. And science over the past 10, 20 years has shown really the left brain is the logical brain and the right brain is the relational brain. Logical and problem solving on the left, relational and actually character identity on the right. We can dive into that a little bit here. I've got these diagrams, and these show that each side of the brain has unique functions and value for us, and we're going to go with those that are predominantly left first. Words and verbal, any kind of written or spoken words. Details, logical, precise, analytical, and detached. These are all functions of the brain that are predominantly found in the left brain. Now, those functions that are predominantly found in the right brain starts out with music, tone, big picture, imaginative, general, creative, empathetic. Now, which of these sides do you not want functioning? If you want to be primarily a left brain person or primarily a right brain person, which of these are you willing to give up? I say neither. Isn't it best for us to operate fully brained? That's the way God designed us to work. And when our two brains are actually synchronized and working together, we're at our best. That's the way God created us. Now, the problem is, sadly, that there's quite a bit of that function in the right brain that can shut down. When we experience negative emotions that we just can't handle well in a healthy way, that path that I told you about before gets shunted. Parts of the brain, the right brain, actually shut down, and we lose access to that function or those functions that are there. When we lose these functions in the right brain, it's because there's a circuit breaker in our brain that's kind of tripped over. Everything that would normally go down the right side or the right brain, that pathway, gets pushed over to the left brain. And instead of being relational anymore, we're logical and a problem solver. We're focused on fixing a problem in our life that emotionally we just can't handle. Now I'm going to share with you what that looks like when the right brain is shut down. These are behaviors that I can detect in myself when the right brain is shut down. I want to make my point. I want to be right. I'm going to fight to win, and I'm going to argue to convince you. I'm going to solve or fix that problem, and I'm unaware of what's going on around me and who's around me. I'll have emotional outbursts, and finally, I'll treat you as my enemy. Now, what about when the right brain is on? What are the kind of behaviors I'm going to detect in myself? This is what I would say we're full-brained operating. Both right and left brain are operating and synchronized. We're going to be more collaborative. We're going to be tuned in. We'll be open to others, curious. We're going to seek mutual outcomes. I am going to be glad to be with you. Sound familiar? We're going to seek understanding. I'll control my impulses and I'll treat you as my ally. This is how God designed us to operate. Fully right brain and fully left brain, both relationally and logically. We want all of that operating at 100%. Again, what we'll see is that we're more collaborative, tuned in, open to others, curious, seeking mutual outcomes. I'll be glad to be with you. I'll seek understanding, controlling my impulses, and treating you as my ally. In order for us to create belonging, we must be relational. This pathway that I described must be functioning on, we call it our relational circuit, or I might say RCs. When our RCs are on, we know that we are in relational mode. We are going to be relating with the world around us in a healthy way. So let's get ourselves into relational mode so that we can feel this joy and share it. I want you to close your eyes, and we're going to do an exercise that I call experiencing an appreciation moment. Think about this, I'm going to call it a golden moment, a positive memory of something that made you smile or feel at peace in the last week or two, maybe the last month. Something that just made you feel joy or appreciation. This isn't a transaction. It's not that I just got a PO, or we just won a new client, or my team won the game last weekend. This is something you experience, maybe and more likely with someone or with God. I want you to replay this memory. Try to kind of relive it. Try to re-experience those good emotions. And I want you to notice how you're feeling physically and emotionally. Maybe you're starting to smile. Maybe there's a little bit of tingling in the back of your neck or head. And maybe your shoulders are dropping a little bit. Ask God where He is in this memory. Now I want you to ask Him, what does He want you to know about this memory? And don't filter it. Just let Him respond to you. What does God want you to know about this memory? Now, open your eyes. I want you to name that memory. Give it a headline title, 5 words or so. Like, I have one, and it's called a sunset motorcycle ride. My son and I went up to the hill and saw the sunset on our dirt bikes. It was a blast. And every time I think about it, I smile. And that's what this appreciation moment exercise does for us. It helps us relive these moments that actually energize these RCs. Our relational circuits are being intentionally energized, and we're getting that side of the brain functioning again. So when we do this, we're actually getting back into a state of joy where we can actually share this with others. And so that's what we're going to do next. You're going to take a minute or two at your tables, and you're going to share this appreciation moment with each other. Give your table members the name of this appreciation moment, and then just spend 10 or 20 seconds describing it real briefly. As you're experiencing this appreciation moment, you're actually engaging those relational circuits. And as you share it with others, you're energizing their relational circuits. So, as I share joy, I'm giving you joy. You're actually receiving it, and the right brain is coming on for you. And when we share joy, we are creating belonging. So it's best for us to make sure that this right side, this relational circuit, is on for us in order for us to make sure that we're creating belonging around us. Your turn next. You need to practice this regularly. I say daily. Sit down 3 times a day and spend 3 minutes going through this appreciation moment exercise. And as you do, you're going to start this list of these golden moments. And you're going to compile dozens of these moments that are going to be able to help you come back to joy and get your relational circuits on anytime you need. But as you do this 3 times a day for 3 minutes, and you ponder 3 appreciation moments, you're going to start to strengthen these circuits as well. And the brain is going to start to change and get stronger and be better able to handle these negative emotions that we get in life. And you're going to be able to stay relational even longer in those moments. And finally, I want you to teach those around you how to do this. It's great that you're doing this for yourself, but you need to help others do this, because as we all experience joy and share joy, belonging is multiplied. In summary, sharing joy creates belonging around us. It's up to us to feel appreciation, get our RCs on, and share that joy with others. It's beneficial for all your relationships, at home and at work. And when employees have this strong sense of belonging, it hits the bottom line for your business. It increases productivity, growth, and profitability. This positively impacts your personal life, your culture, and the bottom line. Leaders create and nurture belonging by sharing joy and teaching others to do the same. Sharing joy creates belonging.